Broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Here's your host, Andrew Romanella.
Okay? Like, just get the hell out of here. Nobody cares what you think if you're not a Mets fan.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to an on-location edition of the Rome Show, broadcasting live on youtube.com/the Romanellas, Twitter, X, and Instagram, the Rome Show 1, and facebook.com/the Rome Show. I am your host, Andrew Romanella. Welcome into a Tuesday edition, December 30th, 2025. It's 7:08 in Western New York, and we have to talk some Monday night football with the people. The Rams, they lost another bad one last night, this time to the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football in Atlanta. Not an insane amount changed, but we have to dissect where the Rams are at right now as they head into the postseason. 2025 is coming to an end. I know. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Okay? Exactly 48 hours from this moment right here, we are going to be in the year 2026. So I got some thoughts over the next few days of what I've learned in 2025 and what I'll be taking into 2026. And I read an awesome story yesterday on Indiana University head coach Curt Cignetti, which I thought was phenomenal. And it really gave me, at least, some really awesome insight into how this man has brought arguably the worst, historically speaking and statistically speaking, college football program in the history of the game to the number one seed in the college football playoff and the promised land that they've never, ever entertained being in. We'll talk a little Curt Cignetti to get you ready for the college football playoff this coming weekend. The pleasantries are this. It's the Rome Show on Facebook, the Rome Show 1 on Twitter, X, and Instagram, and youtube.com/the Romanellas. Please, please, please be sure to subscribe and share any of those with a friend. That is the most important way to grow the show. Last night, the Rams, they took on the Falcons in Atlanta. The Falcons defeated the Rams by a score of 27-24. At one point in time, the Falcons had a 21-0 lead in this contest. They blanked the Rams offense, who, if you listened to yesterday's show, we discussed how the Rams offense is currently one of the top 10 best offenses in the National Football League. Well, yesterday, they went 30 minutes to start this contest with 0 points. Kudos to the Atlanta Falcons defense, who had a great day yesterday. Matthew Stafford arguably had his worst game of the season, threw for 269 and 2 TDs, but he had 3 interceptions. And over the last 5 games for the Los Angeles Rams, not only is the team 2-3 from a record standpoint, but Matthew Stafford in those 5 games has thrown 6 interceptions. The man that I think heading into, I would even go a step back and say heading into week 16 was the clear-cut favorite. Hands down, no matter what, the people, at least what it felt like, believed that Matthew Stafford was trending towards being the most valuable player in the National Football League this year. Well, 2-3, 12 TDs to 6 INTs over the last 5 weeks of football, and a wild card spot when there was a real chance before you kicked off against Seattle at 11-3 last weekend. There was a real chance for this Los Angeles Rams team to finish as the number 1 seed in the NFC. Now, just 2 weeks later, you're looking at it and you're going, "Do we even believe in this Rams team at all? Do we think this Rams team is good?" Okay? And to take that a step further, that is the National Football League today. Okay? There are 3 seasons we go through in the NFL. There is the preseason slash September. Okay? Because to me, that's the same thing. Okay? The preseason in August and the first 4 weeks of the season in September, season number 1. Okay? Then we have season number 2, October and November. That 8-week stretch oftentimes really does start to define which team's going to be in the postseason, which team's probably going to be a contender, and which teams are the Giants, the Jets, the Raiders, and the Tennessee Titans. That week 5 through week 12 area in the National Football League, that is the the movement. Okay, like we're getting ready for a race in NASCAR. All right, you start to your lap goes this fast, and that guy's lap goes that fast. You were in 5th, now you're in 11th, right? It shuffles a lot. That's that 8 weeks right there. And then you have your third and your final part of the season, which is the final 5 weeks of the year. Okay, where we decide or we find out, better way to put it, how good is this team? Okay. Are they a team more like, I'll use a team not in the playoffs for this example, the New Orleans Saints? Are they a team more like the 49ers, a team like Seahawks? We're going to win 4, 5, 6 straight games towards the back end of this season and either make a run at this postseason or look to turn things around as a franchise and get going in the right direction? Or are they the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? 4 straight losses, 1-7 in their last 8. Are they the Los Angeles Rams? 2-3 in their last 5. There are 3 separate seasons in the National Football League, and all 3 present a completely different landscape, a completely different outlook on what you think could happen and who could be a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And as I was watching that game last night, I said 2 things. First off, I have been way too overhyped on the Los Angeles Rams. That's just a fact. I've said it on this show. I've said it to people that'll listen to me throughout this entire year of I don't know who the best team in the National Football League is. I have been putting my money, my bananas on the Los Angeles Rams. That has been the team that to me feels like they have the best chance top to bottom, offense all the way down to defense, coaching staff, and anything in between. The Rams have always felt to me like this is probably the best team in the National Football League. However, now weeks 16 and week 17 have really thrown a wrench in those plans. Okay. And stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. We'll give you our middle of the week hump day top 5 National Football League teams heading into the final week of the season. In the last few weeks, the Rams have been showing up in that top 5 as arguably one of my best teams in the league. But I think what yesterday showed me was I might not want to be putting my bananas on this Los Angeles Rams team when it comes to the postseason. And then furthermore, B, though, it's also because they're really poor on the road. Okay. Think about some of the losses this team has had this year and think about how some of those losses have come on the road. Their record in 2025 away from SoFi Stadium is 5-4. Okay. So we want to be a great football team. We believe we can be the best team in the league. But of our 5 losses this year, 4 of them come on the road. On the road against the Falcons, on the road against the Seahawks. Okay. On the road against the Eagles. Okay. And on the road against the Panthers. So you're 5-4 on the road and you're 6-1 at home. And you just lost the chance to win the NFC title and you just lost the chance for the number 1 seed in the NFC. So, in conclusion, a bad road team who has to win 3 road games to get to the Super Bowl can no longer have my vote of confidence and belief heading into the postseason. By the way, this Rams team at one point in time won 6 straight and 8 of 9. Okay, but as we mentioned before, 3 losses in their last 5. 2 of those losses, I would say they are head and shoulders a better team. Maybe not than Carolina, but they're better than Carolina. Okay, and I think they are way better than the Falcons. By the way, before we close the book on this thing, how about the Falcons? Okay, obviously, Michael Penix Jr. got hurt halfway through this year. And Kirk Cousins takes back over as the starting quarterback. Now, I am not about to get on this microphone and tell everybody that Kirk Cousins should have been the starter all year for Atlanta. I'm not about to get on this microphone and tell everybody that Kirk Cousins is the answer in Atlanta. That's not what I'm saying here. But in the 7 games this season that Kirk Cousins has started for the Atlanta Falcons, the team is 4-3. Okay. We can't discredit that. All right. Including 3 straight victories and 4 wins in their last 7 games. They beat the Bucks and the Rams, and then obviously the Saints and the Cardinals, not great playoff teams. They got a win against the Bills this year. They beat an 8-8 Vikings team early on in the year. Okay. It was the 5 straight losses in the middle of the year. It was the 7 losses in 8 games. Okay. And it was the inconsistency of the entire team outside of Bijan Robinson. But with that running attack and the talent that they do have, I'm not saying that Raheem Morris made the wrong decision going to Michael Penix Jr. That's why you drafted the guy. But at least in this season, Kirk Cousins has done a fantastic job of leading this Falcons football team. And if you're wondering, it's not as if he's blowing the doors off of this thing. 9 touchdowns, but only 4 interceptions. He's thrown for 1,500 yards. And I think he started officially 7 games. 62% completion percentage. Taking care of the football, leaning on Bijan Robinson, and being really good defensively is the only path for the Atlanta Falcons. Here's my final thought on this, because I was in the midst of thinking about this yesterday, and I was writing down my notes on the show, and I'm like, you know what the Atlanta Falcons are? They're the Miami Dolphins. And you know what the Miami Dolphins are? They're a mid-level team. And the Falcons are a mid-level team, and all of these franchises that in any sport that find themselves in this Falcons territory, this Dolphins territory. What do I mean by that? Every year they're going to have a streak, good and bad. Every year they're going to have a chance. How long that lasts, I don't know, but the chance is going to be there. The chance enough that you as a fan is locked. You're like, dude, let's go. Okay. But only some of them will be the Houston Texans. What do I mean by that? Well, the Houston Texans started 0-3 this year. Then they finished 11-5 and are going back to the postseason. Okay. Whereas the Miami Dolphins for the 3rd straight year started 1-5, 1-6. And then for the 3rd straight year, are going to be on the outside looking in with significantly more wins on the back end of the season than the front, finishing the season kind of like a legitimate football team. That type of fanship is the hardest. And go to the Rome Show podcast, wherever you get your podcast. I ranted about Steelers fans calling for Mike Tomlin's head. And I disagree with any Steelers fan that thinks Mike Tomlin should be fired. However, I understand where you're coming from, because you're in the perpetual, consistent hell of where are we going here, man? We're not good enough to win in the postseason, but we're also not bad enough to get the draft picks that are going to change this franchise. So where the hell are we going here? And I was thinking about that last night. I think as a fan of a sports team, as a fan of someone, as someone that invests time and energy and money into these sports franchises, the worst place to be as a fan is in the middle. I would almost say that it's easier, and this isn't a hot take, and I'm not saying that being a Jets fan in 15 years and not being in the postseason is what you're looking for. No, 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 no. That's not what we're talking about here. But sometimes it's easier that in week 7, you're like, I at least know my team sucks. We're out. They stink. But to do what the Dolphins do and win 4 straight, and then you go to play a prime time game, and you're like, we got a chance here, and they get slaughtered. You're like, what are we doing? That is almost worse. To do what the New York Rangers are doing right now. I saw a stat yesterday. Okay. I have it up here on my screen. The New York Rangers, in 120 possible periods in the 2025-2026 season, 120 possible periods of hockey, have only scored in 76 of those periods. That's 63% of the time. This team is getting shut out. Okay. The Rangers, though, they're the class in the National Hockey League. They're the New York Rangers. They play at the world's greatest arena. They're an original 6 franchise. And oh, by the way, if you look at the history of the Rangers over the last 25 years, they've had 3 of the best goaltenders in hockey history. They've had some legitimate teams. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't like, let's pump up Rangers tires here. The Rangers go into every season. The Rangers fan goes into every season believing that they have a chance. Just for a stat like that to come out on the board. And I think to myself as a Devils fan, well, for 10 years, the Devils were irrelevant. 2014 to essentially yesterday, the Devils have been irrelevant. But I got 3 Stanley Cups out of 1995 to 2005. And I've had 4 Stanley Cup appearances in my lifetime. So what's better? You know? Is it the franchise that's team 13 through 20 every year? So in theory, you have a chance every year. Or is it the franchise that truly shows you what they are? We're really bad right now, but we could get really good like the Chiefs did for the next 10 years and let's ride, right? What is the best? And honestly, to finish, that's fanship, man. Call it fanatical, because being a fan oftentimes is one of the hardest things to do. The Rome Show 1, Twitter, X, and Instagram. If you want to get in on the action, talking fanship in sports, the Romanella's on YouTube. We have some comments for the people. Brian Tompkins writes in Pitts signing with Kansas City. Ooh, breaking news on the show. Thank you, Brian Tompkins, for that. Kyle Pitts signing with Kansas City. Hot take season. I like it. You think that's where Pitt's gonna go? He has yet to reach his full potential, but if Travis Kelce retires, that is an early hot take. I might actually have to save this tweet from Brian Tompkins. He also is a big Rangers fan. He writes in, the Rangers make me cry myself to sleep every night. Hashtag said hot. And Brian Tompkins also writes in, going to be the first team to not make the playoffs in their 100th season as a franchise. That is the New York Rangers. Mr. Tompkins is talking about. Bri, we appreciate you tuning in. I can only imagine your feelings on the New York Rangers and the New York Football Giants right now. Feel free to use the Rome Show as your sounding board. We're going to sound off on some commercials real quick. When we come back, I got a great note on Indiana University head coach Curt Cignetti and maybe some thoughts on the 2025 year. Who knows if we'll have enough time? You have to stick with us to find out. Andrew Romanella back after this Rome Show.
What is one thing every great leader has in common? They challenge their people to not stop at the first right answer. Titan Malugnuts is a leadership book that will teach you how to move past the first right answer with entertaining and detailed examples founded in real-world concepts and experiences. Accelerate towards your professional goals with Titan Malugnuts, one of the best leadership books available.
What's up? Welcome back into the Rome Show, on location, broadcast live from Western New York, also known as Rochester. I am your host, Andrew Romanella. Thank you for tuning in to the Rome Show here on a Tuesday, December 30th, 2025, 7:27 in the top west part of the state of New York. The Rome Show, Twitter, X, Instagram. The Romanella's on YouTube, the Rome Show on Facebook if you want to get in on the action like our guy Brian Tompkins did during the first half of the show. We talked Monday Night Football. We talked fanship. We talked teams that piss us off. If you missed it, the Rome Show podcast, wherever you get your podcast. There's a great story on ESPN.com right now that I feel like deserves the play that it absolutely deserves. And it's a full write-up on the head football coach of Indiana University, Curt Cignetti, okay, who has really bursted on the scene here in the last 3 to 4 years, getting his name fully out there when he took over the job at JMU, and then 2 years ago becoming the head coach at Indiana. And he's had some electric sound bites in his time at Indiana. But the article on ESPN.com, we'll retweet it, the Rome Show 1 on Twitter X. The article discusses Curt Cignetti's first head coaching opportunity in 2011 at a Division II institution, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. They play in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. And at the time, Curt Cignetti took over a program that had a 5 or 6 year drought in the postseason, a program that at one point in time was the program with which his dad was one of the greatest head coaches of all time, Frank Cignetti. So Curt Cignetti gets his big break coming out of being an assistant coach at Alabama in 2011. And man, the psychotic nature, in a good way, with which this man started to do things at IUP, the way with which Curt Cignetti, efficiency-wise, preparation-wise, practice-wise, handles his programs is off the charts impressive. And I got to be honest with you, it made me realize a few things, okay? First and foremost, every single one of these big cats that we're watching on TV and the Power Four conferences, making the millions and millions and millions of dollars, come from a small school. Every single one of them. Every dude that has all of a sudden popped off in their career, for the most part, go look at their coaching resume, because their career is starting off at a really small school. I don't know how much that happens anymore, but kudos to Curt Cignetti for being a dude that got his head coaching break at not the Division I level. What that also shows you, though, is he's building his programs through grit and hard work and simple blue-collar-esque principles that travel. Why can he win at JMU? Why can he win at IUP? Why can he win at Indiana, which historically and statistically in the history of college football has been the worst football program ever? And it's because the values this man instilled in his team. It's because he's not afraid to get on his players, but at the same time, he builds relationships with them so that they know it's out of love. They know that he wants to make them better, but they also know this man's going to push me. This man is going to tell me when I do something wrong. This man is going to make me do it again if I don't do it the right way. And there's kind of a lot of conversation about this over the last few weeks getting ready for the college football playoff. Excuse me. But when I read this article yesterday, and obviously because the CFP has to do the stupidity of waiting so long between the end of the regular season, the start of the college football playoff, then the second round, it's drawn out and it's ridiculous. And I think what Kurt Cignetti has done at IU has lost a little bit of luster because people have stopped caring because you're so far away from the regular season. But that's not the tangent that I'm trying to go on right now. That is just a point in the topic. What I realized is Kurt Cignetti is that dude that is going to build men. And going into this college football playoff, I know they're the number one seed, and I know that they got the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and he's the two-time coach of the year. The talent across that roster is unbelievable. Undefeated, defeat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Like, all of those things are awesome. But I'm like, how good is this team really in the biggest moment? And how good are they going to be 4 weeks off of not playing? Can you be the same football team? And then I read this story yesterday, and I'm like, dude, they can be. Because there's no chance in that last 4 weeks that this dude, Cignetti, is at all ever going to let this team slip up on their effort level, on their concentration level, and on what they need to get accomplished. So as we trend towards this Thursday start of the college football playoff, which I believe kicks off with Miami and Ohio. Yes, it is Miami versus Ohio at 7:30 p.m. on December 31st. As we get ready for the second round of the college football playoff, just because the name of the school is Indiana, just because they've never been there before, and just because they're playing Alabama, doesn't mean that they can't do it. And I've never believed in this Indiana ball club more than I ever have. Because heading into this 12-team playoff thing, if you would have asked me to pick it then, no chance. I don't even know if I have them winning this game. But the more I read about this guy, and the more I read that how this guy builds programs, it is rather impressive. Check out the article on Kurt Cignetti and get yourself ready for some Indiana football coming up this weekend. By the way, I saw this stat on the New York Jets, and I couldn't believe it. Talking about one of the worst football teams in the history of their league's history. How about the fact that the New York Jets are 1 week away from not having an interception the entirety of the 2025 season? Here is the list of the 6, if you include the Jets right now, 6 worst seasons in National Football League history in terms of interceptions or lack thereof, with the worst one. If the Jets somehow find a way to have 3 interceptions in their final game, then they won't be the worst. But as it currently stands in 2018, the San Francisco 49ers collected only 2 INTs in 16 games. Never before. History of the league. That's how bad this Jets franchise is to finish. Go back to what we were talking about fanship before. Think about being a poor Jets fan. And oftentimes with fanship, you don't got a choice. Your parents, you were born into this. Like, there are so many Jets fans that didn't have a choice. As a Mets fan, I was talking to my brother about this yesterday. I didn't have a choice. My dad was cool with me being a Dolphins fan. He was cool with me being a Devils fan. But he's like, dude, we're Mets fans in this household. You're not going to be a Mariners fan just because you like Ken Griffey Jr. But then again, it begs the question, would the Jets fan rather know they're atrocious, or would the Jets fan rather feel like they have a chance every year but always find a way to blow it? I don't know. The outcome is the same, but the process completely different. Thank you for tuning into the Rome Show on the road. We're on location in Western New York. We'll be home in New Jersey tomorrow. Give you the same great show, getting you ready for New Year's Eve. We are going to be giving you the things I've learned during the 2025 year that I think are important. We're going to give you some of our favorite moments of 2025 and so much more here on The Rome Show. Thank you to Brian Tompkins for writing in. Thank you to the people for tuning in. I appreciate you. You have a fantastic Tuesday, must I say. I hope it's an electric one. And until tomorrow, this is Andrew Romanella saying